I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation by Assembly of God. Nobody here? Okay. Roll call, please.
Savers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Chark. Here. Smith.
Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items per consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove?
Nothing to remove, but can somebody explain the change order on the sidewalk stuff? Does it, I guess my question is that leftover 2019 stuff that's being pushed into 2020?
So, I don't think so. Testing? Nope. Test. How about now?
Yep.
So we do have some that is left over from 2019, but we're also incorporating into the 2020 projects as well. We can do that because it's a unit rate bid.
Okay.
So we've decided to go that route.
And budget-wise, we're okay?
Yes, we have the budget for it for 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, I thought you wanted to talk, Mr. Barrington. I was going to tell you, you have your own microphone.
Not quite yet.
All right. Nothing else? We'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address any of these? Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Chark. Aye. Savers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens' input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken. Does anybody wish to address council? Ladies, state your names, please.
Jessica Skinner.
Darcy Sabers. We are the president and vice president of the Hearts and Soul Cancer Walk. And this year we are going to change our walk to a virtual walk, but we would like to include a car parade that goes down Main Street and around Lawler and kind of in that loop. And we just wanted to okay that with the council before we announced it to our public.
And what's the date of that?
June 19th. We would go from 6:30 to 8. No stopping of traffic or anything, keep normal traffic flow. We're going to have a live remote at the Corn Palace, so we were just hoping that that wouldn't interfere with anything that anybody...
So you don't need road closures or anything
Nope.
like that?
No,
No.
we'll let everybody do their normal speed, I guess, and...
Well, wait a minute. Who's normal speed?
Legal speed?
Not
We go
mine.
legal speed. We wanted to do the parade to help we have 3 honorary co-chairs every year, and since they don't get to do their lap at the middle school, we were hoping they would lead our parade, and then we can still do our announcements on how to fundraise and things like that, so.
Okay. Council have any questions for him?
So let's get you a little bit of publicity about this. Can you give us some more of the details? Maybe tell us who the honorary co-chairs are this
Yep,
year?
this year's honorary co-chairs are Parker Fenner, who's a 3, maybe 4-year-old out of Mount Vernon, and Mary Alexander from DW, and Mark Box. So those are our honoraries this year. Last year, we gave out over $98,000 to our community for assistance that they needed, so
we
know
do
this
need
year
your help.
It's going to be a little bit lower because we don't have our normal event, but we're hoping that we can do some virtual stuff. We'll do the virtual walk, we'll do a virtual 5K, and then some online raffle items and stuff for people to do.
So will you still have people being able to purchase luminaries to go along?
Yep, everything will be done online, and now the T-shirts are online through SunGold, and so everything they can just, instead of everybody gathering at the middle school to keep our social distancing, we'll just do it virtually this year.
I do think our committee is going to stand down the Corn Palace and wave and have thank you signs. I do think that it will, at least we won't be not having the event,
Right.
but still doing something in honor of these people that have passed or going through cancer. So I'm hoping this is This is all a new shock to everybody on how we do nonprofit organizations, and I think that we are learning a lot on how we need to readjust our lives and figure out what is best, what we need to do.
I think if you put a dunk tank out there, I know a prime candidate who'd sit in
We were
there
told you were doing it.
4 or 5
He
hours to
already
get dunked.
says no. No, Jesse.
No.
The
Oh,
Corn
no.
Palace is gonna let us put up a special luminary board this year, and leave it out there for kind of the whole month of June to try to, since we won't have them around the walk this year, and so we'll still get to do some of that stuff, but we'll do as much online as we can.
You're welcome.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Yes, and hopefully you guys can come out and just wave, because Dan's going to be there.
Whatever.
Anybody else wish to? Okay. Sales tax update. Ms. Elwine, where'd you go? Oh, I'm used to seeing you sit where, so,
I'm going to start with one document, see if I can get it pulled up. We did not just include the regular monthly sales tax report in the council packet as we normally would. The reason for this, we thought that it really required some additional, and I am sorry, I can't make it, well, here we go. And that's the wrong one, hold on. That it required some additional information to get a better understanding of what's going on. Hold on. Still not working. Okay, here we go. So this is a normal sales tax report that you would have received from the finance officer. As you can see, if you were just going off this report, you'd be looking at 11.21% increase for April in first and second penny, and then a 9.16 increase for third penny. The reason why we thought it was important to give some additional clarification is the way that the city reports those sales tax numbers is based on when we receive the revenue from the state of South Dakota. So Michelle has been putting together a little bit more detailed collection information for me, so I'm looking at that on a every 2-week basis. And you can see for the month of April, the dates that we received checks from the state, and I can't read that far away, says
March 21 through March 31st, and April 1st through April 20th.
thanks, I need glasses apparently. And that's just when the state received, they receive the money from the retailers. Sometimes there could be, a 30-month delay in when they receive those payments, turn around and send those payments to us. So really, when you're looking at that report, that could be actual sales from January and February. It is not reflective of what might have happened in April. I did still go ahead and put together my report that I show to you each quarter that shows the condensed collection information. A couple things that we just want to make sure we point out is our 2020 budget was actually anticipating a 5% decrease from the 2019 budgeted revenue. Part of that is because we knew that starting July 1st, we were going to lose revenue due to the internet sales tax. That's only for 6 months out of the year, but we did take the full amount out for the year. And then we also just decreased it a little bit from there. Again, for the entertainment tax, we anticipated a 5.5% collection decrease in the 2020 budget. We have been lobbying to the state about getting us better, more timely reporting on sales tax numbers. As you've heard me say before, sometimes we don't see what the actual sales are for 2 or 3 months after they're done when the state posts the information. They have started doing that for us now with everything going on with COVID-19. I just wanted to point out what they are showing for sales tax for the city of Mitchell. And again, this was just actual sales reported by retailers. It wouldn't be necessarily what they've received from payments from those retailers. According to the conference calls that we continue to have with the Department of Revenue, they say they're really short on collections, and they're not actively enforcing those that are delinquent. They're just trying to get them collected by the end of their fiscal year because they know what everyone's kind of going through. But if you were to look at the actual sales reports, this is what retailers are saying their sales are. It shows that we're up 1.3% from
from last year at the same time frame. But as you can see, that really doesn't match that collections report that I showed you first that we typically look at for the finance office. It's important because that report that we look at from the finance office is what we base our budget on. So we know we're going to receive this much typically in a year. The reason for pointing this out is you're going to see our actual revenue budget dollars impacted from August through maybe even February, we were talking, depending on what happens in second and third quarter. So the other thing that we finally actually got a report on from the state is the remote sellers information, and this would be your internet sales tax. This would be the state's reported sales, and then you can see for the cities they're showing a decrease of $492,000. That's not just the city of Mitchell, that's cities combined, because they don't break it down by municipality. Remember, any retailer that already has a physical location is already paying sales tax. So this would be anybody that, you know, Walmart, they have a physical location, so they're not going to be reported as part of this report. It'd be anyone that doesn't have a physical store location in the state. So that's really all I just have to go over for you. I was just cautious. I was a little bit cautious about just putting our normal report out there because I don't want to give the impression to the public that we've seen sales tax spike that much, because we're really talking about collections we've received from the state, which really are 2 to 3, sometimes 4 months out, depending on how fast they receive money in and turn it around back to the city.
So Stephanie, you're saying that they're behind, the state is, from collecting for this month, for April. So April, we're really not going to see that result, which is not going to, I don't believe is going to be very good, but we won't see that result until June or July.
August is what we're anticipating, is when we'll see those impacts.
So how do we as a council budget that we don't know what we got?
I agree.
We just tell the department heads they don't get nothing, and that's the way it is. They can have their salary. And
so we did have our South Dakota Municipal League Association made a request that the governor's office and the state consider allowing us one time to change our budget hearing timeframes to November instead of September. About 73% of the city's tax revenue comes from sales tax, so that's a significant impact on operations. Initially, they told us they would consider a bill at their special session. As you've probably seen, the governor announced that they're not going to have a special session, so that's not an option for us anymore. We've kind of moved into Plan B. I've sent out, just for the general public's information, I sent out to all of council as late as possible budget hearing timeframes. So we're going to push that back as long as we can so we can kind of see how the collections are coming in. But I would anticipate the city's going to have to pass a budget that's extremely lean with some significant reductions made. And then you look at how we end the year at the end of, we're in 2020, and then consider a supplemental appropriation next year. So we've talked in management meetings that you may just be submitting your operational needs, like this is the bare bones, and then here's my priorities from there. So as you come back and you consider additional approvals, you can go through the priority list at that time. But I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be extremely difficult for any of us to forecast when we can't even, we don't know how those numbers are going to impact us until late summer when we're already supposed to be by state law holding hearings on the process.
Very good.
Like
No, it's not
April is still, it's not even due to for
Yep.
2 more days. So the time they get it, it's the 23rd. If it's postmarked on the last day, by the time they get it, it's the 23rd of May.
And sometimes that could be a month for
So
them
you're
to
always
get
going to be
it
a month behind.
turned over to us, so it's 2 months by the time it gets to us, because their staff has to go through their process of reporting.
And if they're not enforcing people to send them in or
Right.
going after them, then there might be an entire
Right.
another month or
Right.
more.
Right. One of our conference calls that we had with the Department of Revenue said that what they've been telling to retailers now is that their goal is to get collections done by the end of the state's fiscal year. So June 30th. So, but that doesn't mean that someone who's late in July, that they're going to actively be, I don't know what their plan is going to be on that.
Be interesting budget year.
It's going to be interesting
Yes,
for
it
sure.
will.
Wow.
Our goal has been, as you know, the mayor's asked department heads to cut back on as much as possible internally. We had a hiring freeze on seasonal and part-time employees through May 15th to try to save some money on that as well. It's going to be extremely difficult, so good news. The good news is, it could be worse. We had better sales tax numbers reported on the state's report in April than some of the other communities that I saw, which was good, I thought. One thing that we are noticing, though, if you look on a monthly basis on the reporting the Department of Revenue has been giving us, a lot of the communities that serve as a regional hub, the smaller towns that normally would be coming to Mitchell, are doing better than we are. So they might have, you've seen some smaller towns with double-digit sales tax increases, where, maybe they're not making as many trips to town and those kind of things. So we'll see
So
how
they're
it all.
spending local.
Yep, or ordering online.
Sure, yeah, that's right.
So that's the information. We were just concerned by putting it out there, maybe the wrong impression would be given, so we wanted to walk through it with council. There are extra copies of that information at the back of the table for anyone who's interested.
Further questions? Okay. Hearings on application to transfer retail on-off sale malt beverage license RB 3133 from Hone Partnership LLC, 1510 South Burr Street, Suite C, Mitchell, South Dakota, to Home Partnership LLC, doing business as Platinum Players Club 3, 719 North Sanborn, Suite 1, Mitchell, South Dakota. Justin, you got anything to say to this one?
Not me.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application to transfer retail on-off sale malt beverage license RB 2835 from Home Partnership LLC, doing business as Platinum Players Club 1, 719 North Sanborn Boulevard, Mitchell, South Dakota, to Home Partnership LLC, doing business as Platinum Players Club 1, 719 North Sanborn Boulevard, Suite 3, Mitchell, South Dakota, due to the configuration of malt beverage license.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Barrington. Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve applications for renewal of malt beverage licenses.
Any problem with any of them?
No.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address these? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for City Council to recess to this Board of Adjustment. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Mr. Putnam. Oh, hang on here.
Oh, go ahead.
Hearing and action on conditional use permit for Henry and Patricia Flack, Barrington Court. Henry and Patricia Flack are applying for conditional use permit to construct a storage building on a non-contiguous lot located at Lot 12I within Lot 12 of Fiala's Addition on the east half of the northwest quarter, Section 4, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. The property is zoned RL Residential Lake. Mr. Putnam.
Mayor and members of the Board of Adjustment, I was just notified by the applicant that he would like me to read a statement on behalf of the applicant. It says, in light of some new findings late this afternoon in which I'm trying to work what is best for the situation at hand, I would ask that you would table the conditional use and variance request until the second meeting in June so that I can get the proper information in place, which I believe is June 15th. I greatly appreciate the Planning Commission's time they put into this matter and the City Council's in the future. Thank you, Henry and Patricia Flack. So,
Move to table.
Second. Motion by Mrs. Charts, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion?
Mayor, I'm just going to make a suggestion. Since today was noticed for hearing, I'm going to recommend that that if anybody's here to speak on that matter, you allow them to speak.
Okay. Further discussion from council? Anybody want to come up and speak on the issue?
My name is Dale Odegaard, and I have a small residential development across the street from the Barrington land where Hank Flack would like to build a metal shed. And I have nothing against Mr. Flack. The only thing I'd like to say is that it's a residential area. The property across the road that I own, there's probably three houses that are in there that are probably $450,000 to $650,000. I sold a lot here about a month ago to another gentleman that's building a new home, and I have received phone calls from them, and they are not too excited about letting this property get into building metal sheds. And my opinion is it's a residential area. In my development, I have covenants, and anybody that builds a home, they have to build a shed that matches their home. And I'm trying to keep the area as nice as possible, and I would like to keep other parts of that same area that way. When we developed our area, I had to put a cul-de-sac in with curb, gutter, streets, everything. That cost me about $125,000. And I guess at this point, like I say, I have nothing against Mr. Flack at all, but I'd like to keep it residential the way it is in that area and not make any changes. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm Philip Becker. I'm also a neighbor, and I guess I'm just questioning what the table process says and what does that mean with respect to this matter, as we thought it was going to be voted on tonight.
It means they've requested to be tabled until the second meeting in June, so it'll come back up in that meeting.
Okay, does it go back to zoning at all or anything else? Or?
It does not.
Guess it depends if there's any substantial changes, but at this point,
If it
would not.
stays as it is, it would not go back to,
right,
planning and
if
zoning.
nothing's changing, then it would not go back to planning and zoning.
Okay. I guess I would just encourage, if people have a good understanding of what's been presented, I can't imagine myself what's going to be significantly presented differently than what was done already. We have a very unified neighbor movement in the surrounding area that we think this is a real problem to open up the possibility for non-contiguous sheds. And once you open up one, it's going to be pretty hard to tell the next person living next door, not living, but actually owning a lot next door, to not be able to do the same thing. And there's lots of sheds. We've heard, it's a lot of sheds around the lake, a lot of sheds in the neighborhood, but it's very different. My shed, the other sheds in the neighborhood, they're built on our own property. They don't require a conditional use permit. It's a contiguous property, and that's what the residential zoning designation means. So we would just encourage to really consider that. And again, I can't imagine what's going to be presented differently that would change our neighborhood movement. We're very unified on this. Everybody around has signed off and totally approved everything that's been corresponded with the zoning and the council. So, any questions anybody has for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Greg Doctor. I live on 1213 Joe Jean Court, which is adjacent to where the shed is going to be built. That building will be in my direct line of sight from my house. And I agree with Dale and Dr. Becker that it just ruins the aesthetics of the neighborhood. If you want to build a shed, I think that shed should be built closer to land that they have across from their residences, where they can hide their boats and jet skis and that kind of thing closer to their own homes rather than in our neighborhood. So I would just like to see the council take that into consideration when they look at this again in June.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Chad Chahoy, and I'm the gentleman that Dale's referring to, building a new house out there. We took a lot of time on deciding where we're gonna build, looked all around town, out on the outskirts of town and city limits everywhere. And the reason we picked that area is because it's a nice general location. We feel like once we build it, we're hoping other people will build there. And I looked around and checked, everything was residential, and that's the whole reason why we picked a lot there. And we're, just in the process of starting, and I hate to see a bunch of sheds when I look across the street, kitty corner, and see them, because we're building out there for residential, and I like to see other residentials built out there, and I have a feeling that if sheds are put out there, it's gonna slow it down from people wanting to build there. And there's other sheds out there, we took that into consideration and everything, but my understanding was that if it's residential, that it's supposed to be homes, not sheds. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion to table. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing in action on variances for Henry and Patricia Flack. Barrington Court, Henry and Patricia Flack are applying for an oversized variance of 3,200 square feet versus 2,000 square feet, and height variance of 24 feet versus 22 feet is required. Located in Lot 12I within 12 of Fiala's Addition, east half of the northwest quarter, Section 4, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, 5th primary, and City of Mitchell. Property is zoned RL. I'm assuming this will be tabled as well.
I'll make a motion to table.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody want to speak to this one? They all leave? Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Here in action on R&M Rentals LLC, 300 West 10th Avenue. R&M Rentals LLC have made an application for conditional use permit to construct a two-family dwelling located at 300 West 10th Avenue, legally described as Lot 12, Block 41, Capital Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2, single family.
Mayor and council member, sorry.
No,
Mayor-
go ahead.
Mayor and council members, you probably saw in the planning commission that minutes that they did hold a hearing and did recommend approval. There was a notation regarding some off-street parking, and the applicant did indicate that they were going to provide that. Since that time, I did get a couple letters back. One was a letter of support, one was basically saying they didn't want any rental property across the street, and the other one had a different issue in the neighborhood. So it just for the record that I did get 3 letters back, so, from the pool that was mailed, so.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience wishes to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene the City Council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn the City Council reconvene regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve requests for no parking and painted curbs, section 1501 and 1521 West University Avenue. Mr. Still.
Glenn Still, Public Safety Chief. Mayor and City Council, I got a request from the resident at 1521 West University. This was back when school was still in session. He had many complaints about when school lets out, people are parking to pick up their children, and they're blocking their mailboxes. They weren't getting their mail, parking in their driveway, arguing with his wife when she was trying to leave. I told him at the time we couldn't do anything about the driveway. That was a case-by-case basis. But I told him I would look into the mailbox issue, blocking the mailbox. You'll see the diagram here where his mailboxes are. 1521 is to the left, 1501 is to the right. Both of those mailboxes are to those homes. That area is about 25 feet long. There is also a sign there in the next picture that may be causing some confusion because it allows parking, but the mailboxes, they park in front of it and then they can't get their mail. I did call the postmaster. They won't change mail services. It gets there when it gets there in the afternoon. So I told them I would bring this to the councils to see if they could be marked as a no parking zone in front of the mailboxes so they could get their mail.
I think I was maybe on the council when we had the request to put that sign up.
You've been here a long time,
I
huh?
remember this, I mean, because we talked about it by the school, and so obviously it's not solving the problem.
No, we talked with Kyle Croce, and we gave them the option to move their mailboxes farther down on either side of the block, but the resident at 1501 just put a new mailbox up. She's not interested in moving her mailbox, and the gentleman at 1521 doesn't believe he should have to move his mailbox either.
What time do they get their mail?
Usually in the afternoon, anywhere from, I think, 2:30, 3:30, and it always seems to come about the time they get there. The school lets out and the people are blocking the mailbox.
I'm just thinking outside the box. Why don't you change that sign and just say no parking from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.? Then if they park there, ticket them.
We could do that.
Wouldn't that solve it?
Yeah.
The only concern would be if the post people change their times, that would be the only thing, but at this point, if that's what it is, I, certainly supportive of that.
You're concerned about guessing the mail delivery schedule?
Yes, a little bit.
Quite frequently around my neighborhood.
Does it?
Well,
I
it's
know,
mostly
mine
done
gets
by 4
later
o'clock
usually,
anyway.
but not earlier.
School pickup for kids are mostly done by 4 o'clock.
And it would also solve a problem. When I looked at the area, if you notice, there's crosswalks towards the end of the block and then back. And that little area, if somebody does park there, the kids can actually run out to the car and they're not in a crosswalk and then run out in the middle of the traffic. So it could solve a problem we're not seeing yet, but that's a thought.
So do you want from like 1 to 4 or noon to
1
4?
to 4.
Or?
Put the new sign up and say no parking from 1 to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday,
And then we'd be willing to adjust that
with the postal
with
service.
follow-up with the residents? I mean, if
they change the mail service,
Say we do that, and next September, we get a complaint that, hey, my mail, people are parking there at 10 o'clock in the morning and I can't get my mail, then we'll have to make an adjustment. But
Does the mail have an approximate, does the post office have an approximate time when that mail gets there?
No, the postmaster said that the mail can alter days depending on if the delivery driver's on, normal driver's on vacation, somebody has to fill in, packages go out, there's just so many variables, they just can't do anything with it.
What if you just revise the sign that you've got, say no parking between 8 and 4? At all, and then
That
just
would
during
work
the
too.
school.
There you go.
Yeah,
I think the
8 to
Because then
4
they
would
could
cover it.
still park there in the evenings if there are programs at the school.
Yep, and
That's fine.
I would assume that for most of us, the mail would be delivered by 4. I mean, are we covering, I mean, we're not gonna get stuck in the last hour. I mean, I'm not trying to get picky on it, but do we go to 5 is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, the
Well-
mail people aren't probably working after 5, I would assume. Maybe they do.
If you go 8 to 5, you'll have everything covered.
That's what I was trying to get at. If you're gonna wait to 4, just cover the whole day,
Sure,
then you
just-
never gotta worry about it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to make the sign say no parking 8 to 5.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action to approve request for no parking on either side of the driveway on Jones Street between Cedar Avenue and Ash Avenue. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we got a request from Cromer Plumbing about their driveway on Jones Street, and you can see by the diagram there, they have about 10 to 12 tractors a week coming through there to get into the driveway, and they have trouble when there's parking on that side of the roadway. So their request is to not have parking on either side of the driveway, Typically, we have 35 feet from an intersection, and we think that's appropriate in this case because of the tractor trailers that go in the driveway. So we would support that request of having no parking on either side of Cromer Plumbing's driveway there,
And the
35 feet.
driveway's on the east side of the
Yeah.
road there?
Yeah, yes, sir, that's correct. Their driveway is approximately 39 feet. So this would allow the tractor trailers to make that turn.
And do they have a lot of, I mean, it's got to be employees or people that work in the area that park there, right? It's not,
Across the street.
it's not residential. I live a couple blocks away from there, and it's all industrial.
I would guess it's either Pepsi or, I'm assuming if it was Cromer's people, he would just ask them
Ask
not
them
to
to-
park there.
Right, that's what
Right, yeah, it's easier for him to ask his employees not to park there, but it's the other places around.
Okay.
And Pepsi's got a pretty good-sized parking lot
Yeah.
there, but I
don't know.
I don't know.
And we would paint the curb then, is that?
We would paint the curb yellow.
Okay.
That's what it is.
I don't know. Could be.
We'll try and solve it, I guess. Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Wright.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Okay. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to reassign capital improvement funds for the ice arena roof and envelope repairs. Mr. Powell.
Yes, we are looking to reassign some funds. We're refocusing our 2020 projects in light of the financial outlook that we're under. These are emergency projects that we're going to discuss tonight. We had some significant leaks at the ice arena from ice buildup. It was kind of the perfect storm where we had enough ice buildup on the south rink roof there, and as it melted off the north rink, it just made its way back into the building. So we're looking to get that repaired, and then also the envelope repairs. We've been managing that. We've been managing the air. We were able to do that, but since we're going to fix the roof, we thought we would go ahead and do the envelope as well and get that all sealed up. We think that'll help with long-term utility bills. And Mr. Miller from MSH is here to answer any questions about the project.
Come on up, Mr. Miller.
Sure.
Don't be shy.
All right. I'm Robin Miller, MSH Architects from Sioux Falls. Got the information from the city, what you have for documents for this building. They're a little bit limited, but I was able to review the construction drawings and then the 4 different reports that were provided. I got them in January and February, and then early in March. I was finally, both times at the site. Early in March, the weather was pretty good. We got up on the roof. A couple of your employees helped me up there, and we did a little bit of destructive investigation. And the area where the real problem is where the addition was added to the existing building. Ice and snow can slide off the steeper roof onto the addition. It'll pile up right there, and then if it starts to melt at that line, it will leak back through. In the destructive investigation, it's a little hard to see in the photos, but we could tell that as the building was put together, it was designed for never really holding water in that area, and the snow will hold water or ice and snow back. And within some of the details, there's not enough sealant. So we've got to, basically, we should pull that 245 feet, I think, length of building apart at that location and redo that. Our very preliminary estimate is it's going to run $90,000 to about $100,000 to do that. At the same time, you have air infiltration, so we looked into that again, and we read the other reports. Not exactly sure how the repair was done on the interior, but my understanding was maybe taped up, and there's very little tape left. So all the air infiltration locations are still there or are back, and that needs to be done. And really, if you're going to put the building back together, you need to have good investigation or observation of what's happening. So as you go to repair, I see in one of the photographs the snow right there. The snow and the ice that slides off will damage any equipment, rooftop equipment or venting as it comes through. So it's been denting and beating that up over time. It's bent some gas pipes, and those should be moved as well. That's from snow and ice coming off the higher roof. Yes. It slides down and will hit it. And then when it stands there, what it does is it traps the next, whatever else comes off the roof as it starts to melt. By the way, that connection is a 2-hour fire connection, or a 2-hour firewall below, and that's been getting wet for probably the length of the building. So those details are not in the best shape, and they should be redone. That's a short answer. I understand there's kind of a limit between what you can do internally. I think the idea would be to repair this internally if you could with your staff. It's getting close to that dollar limit, so I gave a kind of a variable in my proposal. If you were to go out and bid it versus if you were to have your staff, if you did it as one project or 2 projects, I've got a couple different dollar amounts I don't know if you'd decide that here or if you'd decide that after we get started on the work.
Well, first thing is they got to allocate the money to
I
it,
know
then
it.
we can work through the other details.
How old is that addition?
Don't ask.
Yeah, it's about 5 years old, isn't it? 13?
Is it 13?
I think that's right. Yep.
Is it 13 years old?
No,
2013.
2013, so 7.
Yep.
7 years.
There we go. Yeah.
Obviously a bad design.
It's, there was a really good, couple of good reports you did a couple years ago, and they do say an ice arena, probably a metal building, isn't the best combination. This one brings in a lot of outside air, and the intent is to limit some of that outside air. We can't, I'm not saying we're going to make it perfect, we're going to improve it. And by improving it, we think you might be able to run the ice longer in the spring and the fall, but my understanding is you're not able to keep ice on it in the summertime, and
Nope.
we're not here to cure that. We're not changing equipment or changing the building type. We're just trying to tighten it up. We want to keep the water out first. You can also then get condensation. A lot of metal buildings, when they have high humidity inside, it gets up past the insulation, condenses against the metal, and then it'll rain back, feel like it's raining or leaking from outside. It's really just in the spring leaking back. The reports have done a pretty good job, I believe, of telling you how to handle the ice and the air on the inside of the building. And to me, it was an anomaly until I really studied it. They have drilled holes in the insulation, about 4-inch diameter hole right through the insulation over the ice, which to me was like, you would never do that. But because you're keeping, you have a cold interior, low humidity environment in the first place, there's not as much humidity getting up against the metal building. But once we get out beyond the sheet of the ice, we want to button that part of the building back up from the interior. And on the exterior, on the lowest part of the overhang of the low slope building, if you go look, it looks like 6 to 8 inches of exposed insulation on the soffit. So the roof overhangs, there's a gutter, and you look up underneath and it's insulation. There's no cap there at all. So it looks like I could take, I haven't been up on a ladder, but it almost looks like I could take a sheet of paper and slide it over the top cap of your building from the outside inside. I can't tell you, I probably can't do that because there are connectors in there, but we'd like to button that up as well, because I think those will just help cut down the air infiltration greatly, but it will never be able to totally improve it.
Have you noticed any mold in it?
I have
since it
not,
rained or
I did not notice mold, but we didn't do, on the inside of the building, no destructive demolition, just on the outside where it's all metal and a little bit of rubber roof membrane. So those will not show mold.
And what we're doing here is taking the money that was earmarked to take care of the old pool in the rec center and moving it over here because this is a more important issue than getting the pool fit, that old pool put in, repurposed.
Yeah, that water will continue to do damage on the 2-hour wall. And don't know how long that'll hold up for you.
And what's the cost?
We did a preliminary estimate, there we go. 160 total, okay.
But if we don't do it, it's
A bad deal.
probably take the building down.
And Nathan, you have all that money, the 160,000 for this?
We have 173 that we had allocated for the old pool. So we have a little bit of room there.
And changing the pitch of the addition won't solve the problem any less expensively? Putting a new roof on the addition, you know, you said the
The addition, I mean, how about re-roofing,
Right now, there's a difference in, the roof comes in, and the old roof is above it.
Right, there, that's a great photograph. There's about a 18-inch difference between those two roofs.
Right, which really should be a
And where the leaking,
continuous slope.
where the leak isn't really happening much through the roof. The leak is happening between
For the
this,
building.
this vertical piece between the two roofs, where this is all knit together. There's various pieces of flashing, and right at, pretty darn close to the lower roof level is where there's, some metal put together, and it's all relying on caulk to keep the water from drifting back into the assembly down below. That caulk is missing, and as we start to pull that apart and replace that part of the connection, that's really where the money's going.
So you're really improving this connection between this variation
connection
and
between the
right
two.
there.
What we're proposing is that's the primary connection, and it's relying on caulk, and the final solution will still rely on caulk. So what we're saying is we need to observe the workers while they're doing the work. So the city will provide crews on a daily basis. We'll be here weekly. On top of that, we're proposing, and I guess it would be another level of defense, which would continue the slope of the higher steep pitch roof all the way down onto the low pitch roof. So we'd fix this detail, then we're going to run another one over the top and seal it out here.
Carries the water further away.
It'll get it further away and get rid of that, kind of that vertical place where it's all sitting. So we're going to rely on two locations for defense.
I know,
It's a mistake.
yeah. I know it was discussed the other night, the park board meeting, and of course, they supported the action and the reallocation of the funds to get what we know is a problem that needs to be resolved immediately, otherwise we'll have much more damage than what we currently have if we don't do something about it, so.
I'll move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Savers.
Marty, so there was the discussion at the park board was.
Yes. Yep, we
I'm
just had it
sure, I'm
last
sure
Thursday night.
lively and.
Yeah, definitely not, obviously our ambition of what we wanted to reallocate, obviously, and losing what we all know we want to get done to, as in going in the pool and
With
stuff
the
like that,
pool.
but with the circumstances at hand, we know it's the proper thing to do, and the park board was on board for it, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, further discussion?
I got one, how long's the warranty, like, what is a warranty on a roof? You think that you get that much money into it, that whoever did it would stand behind it better though, wouldn't they? Or is there a certain amount of time that they say, see you later? No, I'm talking to Nathan
well-
or whoever.
There you go.
Well, there's two components here. There's a roof, and roofs carry different, depending on what kind of roof you're using, it carries a different warranty. Like an EPDM may carry a 20-year warranty. I guess I don't know what a steel roof like this would typically do, but it's not really the roof, it's the connection between the two buildings, the old building and the new building. We could look at other faults, but at this point, you don't want to get into that, I don't believe.
And some of it didn't show up early on because when I came on, we had a pretty light winter. Kyle doesn't believe us still, but but you have to have that perfect storm where it's actually creating that where it's going back into the building. So it may not have shown up early on, but it has
The last 2 years, it's
seasons,
been
yep.
very evident, correct?
So you'd say the roof's okay, the connection is poor?
Yeah, the way the roof probably should have been carried out. The existing roof should have been carried further out, or the roof lines made to match a little better.
We did have issues initially because that's why the city engaged that outside consultant to come in and do the study to
Right.
begin with, before Nate was even here. It was the year I started in 2014.
In fact, their report, and I would concur with it, is it's probably not the best choice of building type. It's not a great choice of building type, and that was in the report by the consultants prior to me, and I would concur with that. So you can't make, we're not going to be able to make a beautifully functioning building out of it because it's not in the first place. but we've got to knit the water,
Yep.
that condition, we've got to knit that back together and take care of the water.
But if we don't address the water infiltration, it will be an even worse building
Absolutely.
down the
Yes.
road in
Yes, it
short
will.
order. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anybody out there in the audience wanted to touch on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Action to another reassign. Action to reassign capital equipment funds to replace broken snow brush and snow blower.
I'll go ahead and pass this on to Jeremy Nielsen. He's our new sports complex supervisor, so I'd like to introduce him. Go ahead.
In light of COVID-19, we have limited events at Cadwell. We need to reprioritize our equipment purchases for 2020 and look at ways to save money. This request is to reassign funds for capital equipment at the sports complex and to focus on snow removal attachments. The cost of repairing the broom and snow blower has exceeded their current value right now. We got approved for $12,500 for a field drag. We're requesting to move that money to replace our broken broom, $4,600, and our snow blower, $5,000. Total purchase is $9,600. Save $2,900, and we'll move our field drag replacement for the 2021 budget requests.
Only question I got, Jeremy, is what happens if they don't get approved in next year's budget? Will it last another year? That's what, yeah.
Our drag?
Yeah. Can you get 2 years?
I think it's a great deal, but, you know, with what it's going, it's not a guarantee it gets approved.
Yeah, we have two drags.
2021.
We do have two drags?
We do have two drags. Yeah, I think it can. But we have a broken broom and snow blower. They're from 2011.
I guess we figure it's going to snow because Kyle moved here, so.
If nothing else, you know, in April, you're going to have a nice Croce come through. Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Hearing for 2020 proposed resolution of necessity, R 2020-16, for construction of curb and gutter, concrete surfacing, asphalt paving, accessories, engineering fees, and miscellaneous expenses of 700 to 800 blocks of West Pine. Mr. Johnson.
At this time, we'll hold our public hearing for West Pine.
Mic is not working.
Okay, for West Pine.
Thank you.
On the paperwork for the resolution that we sent to the property owners and that was published, it was listed as Pine Street, but it's actually Pine Avenue. So we will need to make a request for that change. This is a continuation of the Muller, I think it's R.W. Muller addition that is south of Norway. It starts from Wisconsin and goes all the way over to Miller Street. This certain section, this is just a continuation of a street that was built a couple years ago. This assessment request is between Minnesota to Miller Street. The developer has gone through in the last, starting last year, to build all of the infrastructure, which would be the water, sewer, and storm sewer. He built the gravel base course grade, had SPN stake it, SPN provided us with plans. We got the request to do an assessment project from the developer, who owns about 85% of the adjoining property. And we were kind of waiting on a plat, and he was negotiating with some of the adjoining property owners to finish off the legals. That's why it kind of waited a little bit for us to get our information. Once we got the information, we sent it out to all the property owners. And there's a total of 9 properties that are affected. One of the properties is in the process of building a new house on this stretch. and the other property is an existing property that basically borders the improvement. So with that, I'll ask if there's anyone here that wishes to comment or ask any questions about this assessment.
So all of these lots currently have homes on them already?
No, they're all proposed lots. There's one lot that is in the process of building a home on, and there's one lot that is existing.
So I guess I'm wondering, I mean, these are going to be assessments to the future owners, or are we assessing this? I mean, explain how that works.
This is assessments that are going according to the current property owners. So, yeah, the developer, because he would still own these properties. Now, he has sold one of these properties to the new property owner that's in the process of building the house. So therefore, we have 3 property owners, one being the developer, one being a property owner that is currently in the process of building a house, and one that is an existing property owner.
Can you tell us which of those lots they are, that you know?
I didn't bring my assessment roll with me, but I believe lot 1 is the property owner that is looking at building a new lot, and then number 8 is the one that is a existing property owner. The rest of the lots are all owned by the developer. All right, any other questions? You're right there. So right there where she's got her cursor?
Just above the L-shaped water, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Right there.
So that's the section of roadway we're talking about tonight.
I drove by there today and it's all ready to go, isn't it?
The only thing we got left really is to finish off some gravel grading and then lay some asphalt on it. Does council have any questions before we go into the resolution? Okay, with that, Mayor, you could start the resolution.
Action to approve Resolution R 2020-16, resolution of necessity declaring the necessity for construction of concrete curb and gutter, asphalt surfacing, and accessories, engineering fees and miscellaneous expense of 700 to 800 blocks of West Pine.
So just a couple more things. If this does get approved tonight, we will move forward with finishing up the street. All costs will be assessed through the assessment process. We will send out notices next year after the work is being done, and all the property owners will get the final amounts of their notice. They could pay it up front within 30 days after the collection hearing, or it'll go on their taxes for a payment of 10 years at 8% interest. Any questions?
I guess the one comment that we did receive a phone call today from someone who was concerned about the naming of the street because it doesn't match the legal description.
Pine Street versus Avenue?
Yep.
So we would make the request to change it from Pine Street to Pine Avenue.
Okay, I will move approval of 2020-16 with the change to Pine Avenue.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2020-21, South Dakota Department of Transportation Planning Guide Analysis Agreement. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so we started on getting a traffic study and budgeting for a traffic study last year, but we decided that maybe we could get some grant funds to support that, and so we went through that process. We applied for a grant for a traffic analysis and study with the help of Neil Putman and Joe Schrader. They got approval for the grant, so this is a request for the agreement with DOT for a transportation planning study, and we'd envision that we would have the engineer and designer look at the different traffic patterns, look at the different traffic lights, our signaling, our signage, and some of the street names and additional traffic and parking. The total cost is not to exceed $200,000, where the state would be responsible for 75% of that. We would start immediately with this, but the budget is for 2021, so we would budget that for our city budget year 2021, and we actually would not get billed or invoiced until January 2021.
The state grant doesn't take effect until 2021, which is July 1.
Correct. Correct. It's their July 1. Yes.
Their money can't, correct.
Right. In January. Correct. Correct.
I got one. This is on.
I guess my point is, we'd be committing $50,000 for 2021 budget.
Yes, sir. That's correct. 25% of the study.
Yep. What do you hope to get?
So actually, hope to get a lot of information for the different traffic patterns, our traffic flow on some of the major roads. I'd like to get some signalized information on timing.
Okay.
We would like to understand, maybe we could get
So
even...
does it include, like, hey, what the streets that I'll call state streets, Havens, the bypass?
Sanborn, yeah.
Sanborn, well, Sanborn's ours now.
Right. Our major streets and the state, it would definitely include the state.
It would include, okay.
It would, yes.
Okay.
And that's where our major arterials are coming in, and we would want to know the traffic flow of that, and how to coordinate our traffic lights.
Okay,
and the pattern.
It would include traffic counts and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, our scope was pretty broad.
Okay.
And so we could narrow it down to fit the $200,000 budget, but traffic counts was definitely included with that.
I'm going back to Forward 2040 discussions about how people in traffic move around the town or don't move around the town, or move around based on historical patterns versus efficiency patterns and those types of things. And this could bring some light to that?
Yes, absolutely. We'd want it to.
And hopefully it changes the way we run our stoplights. Good grief.
Or remove stoplights?
Or remove them, yeah.
And
That's correct.
Kyle, won't that also assist future traffic decisions with streets that we receive several requests for whether there should or shouldn't be signs and those kind of things as well?
That's correct. So when we get the traffic count and we get the pattern, when we get requests, we can base it on, we can base the decision on the data that we collect.
Kyle, this is $50,000 that you're planning to spend. Have you an idea of where you might cut $50,000 from somewhere else? I mean, anticipating that the budget is going to be flat or quite a bit less, now we're talking about spending something that's kind of unexpected or out of the normal.
Well, I mean, we'd like to keep the amount of overlay we have and chip seal, obviously, for maintenance of the roadways. We haven't gone into too many details on where we would cut additional costs, and it may come out of operating funds for things like that, for maintenance.
We are getting 75% of it paid for by the state, which we definitely have, no matter what you do, you have to match something with the state, so.
And there's no chance of them reneging
Nope.
No, they don't.
The state's,
No,
the state's gonna be short money like we are, and they're gonna say,
not
These
as
grants-
much as you think
these
anymore.
grants are, these grants that we promised,
Right,
we're
but-
gonna put on hold.
Yeah,
No,
but-
you're right, but
And
the state,
John, the question that their, July 1st, their fiscal 2021 starts, so we'll know by then, if they cut it, it's between now and then.
we have the grant,
Yeah.
right?
We were approved for the
We
grant,
were
yes.
approved for the grant, so we
So
have that money.
We'd know between now and July if they say, oh, everything's off the table, and then.
Right
then
now,
we
they've
wouldn't
got
have it.
$1.25 billion they were handed by the federal government they have to spend by December 31st, so,
And they're not sharing.
and they're not sharing with any of us.
Their fiscal year starts in July, so this is their program year, and I think Kyle was saying we would use the state money to begin the project, since our budget wouldn't start until January 2021.
I have a hard time spending 50,000 for 2021 budget when we don't know if we have it.
Okay.
And I'm going to be voting against this. I don't think it's needed. It can come up at budget, and then you can budget it another year from now, maybe next July you can get the money, but go ahead and hit us with an extra 50,000 when we just talked about our sales tax that might not be there. Then you want $50,000. I mean, come on, Kyle, give me a break.
And Kyle, if we don't approve it, we could lose the grant?
Yeah, we would need to approve it and have the resolution.
So, yeah, what would happen is if you try to do it next year, you'd budget $200,000 rather than $50,000, or 2 years from now.
Or we don't do
So,
it.
or we don't do it.
Is there a timeline on accepting the grant, Kyle?
I don't remember.
So-
We would have to do it before July.
So my question would be, I wonder if council would feel more comfortable if we table that, and maybe we could go back through, because I know we had several studies coming out of general fund this year that should be maybe getting to wrap up points. I know some of them were for storm drainage, but we are not using those storm drainage money to do it. So there might be an offset of one of our existing studies. If you would feel more comfortable
I would.
tabling it, we could bring it back and look and see if there's an offset for you.
Yeah, that would, to know where that $50,000 could come from out of next year's budget ahead of time would be,
That'd be more fair.
yeah.
Okay.
I agree. I like the concept of being able to do a real study of traffic patterns, but,
I don't know what's wrong with what we have now.
uh,
I don't. That's me. I have
You
no
get
problem.
stuck at any of the damn stoplights in this city?
Have
They're
you seen
ridiculous.
Danny's driving?
I know, he doesn't stop for them.
I'll make a motion to table to the June, do I pick a meeting there that we need to get it done by July 1st?
Can we do it the second meeting in June, since this, we have.
Yeah, I'm
this is
asking.
our next meeting.
Yeah.
So-
Is that, Joe or
would be
Kyle, is that okay?
Is that okay?
Is that right?
Yeah,
He's there.
Does that calendar start on Monday?
Yes.
Okay. So Monday the 1st, so it'd be the 15th?
15th? Okay, I'll make the motion to table this until the 15th of June.
Second.
Okay. You have a motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion?
Is that,
My question is if it has to be done before June 15th, can we at least have the option? Correct, rather than just tabling it
Sure.
until the 15th, then we're stuck.
sure, table it to bring it back with more information.
Okay. Okay, so instead of being the second meeting, it's going to
Instead of on it,
Until we have more information.
Till we
on
have
what
more
to do.
information.
Okay, very good. Is that okay with you, Mr. Allen? Is that okay with you?
well, we could have a special meeting,
I'm
I
fine.
suppose,
Okay.
if we needed to,
All
between
right.
the 15th and the 1st.
Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to discuss it? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2020-28, South Dakota Department of Transportation Planning Guide Analysis for Grants. That's the grant?
This is the resolution.
Okay, the
So
resolution
it
for the
would be tabled.
Did
Do we need a
Table.
motion on?
Yep.
Yes.
I'll make the motion to table the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barrington, is that you? Okay. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2020-22, Norway and Raleigh TAP Agreement with SD, South Dakota Department of Transportation.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is the project that we were working on for the Raleigh area and Norway area, the sidewalk between Burr and Raleigh along Norway and then southward on Raleigh underneath the overpass. And so we worked with DOT again on a transportation alternatives program and got selected for a grant in the amount of $400,000. The total project cost is estimated to be around $1 million. And so we would ask to commit city funds and $300,000, which would come out of sidewalk and hazardous funds, and then $336,000 or so would come out of an assessment fund for that sidewalk. Currently, these are the estimates for construction of the project. Again, we would start after the DOT's July start date for 2021. We would do the design in-house for the sidewalk, and that would be part of our contribution. The rest of the funds would come from hazardous sidewalk and our municipal sidewalk funds.
Which is an annual operating budget, so you would be reducing some of the other projects to fund this, correct?
That's correct.
Kyle, does that sidewalk double as a bike trail?
Right, so I think we're trying to get an 8-foot wide sidewalk in, and so the grant will pay for a portion, and the city will pay for some, and then the assessment for a portion of that as well.
The red is 8 feet.
Correct.
And the blue is 10 feet?
Blue is 10 feet down Raleigh. Yep.
Over to Cabela's.
Yeah, and then underneath the overpass is a whole separate
It is, we're working with...
item.
Yes, sir. We're working with DOT on a design for that, and we've also started our assessment part on the west side of Raleigh as well, which our contractor is continuing. So we'll have sidewalk on the west side and bike path sidewalk on the east side.
I think they're doing the sidewalk right now
On the west side, yeah.
Well, this has been a long time coming. I'm really happy to see it finally happening, so I'll move approval of this.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Charks,
Second.
okay, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Is there anybody in the Corn Palace by?
No,
Okay,
Doug had already texted me.
I forgot to ask that earlier.
Just 2 city staff, Jessica and John Vermillion, I believe, are over there.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2020-31, Transportation Alternatives Program for Norway and Raleigh Shared Use Path, and authorize Mayor Everson as signatory.
And this is the resolution for the agreement.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2020-23, South Dakota Department of Transportation, Foster Street Big Grant.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is a project that we have in the works for repairing and replacing sections of the Foster Bridge. Through the BIG grant program, Rose Engineering has helped us apply for the BIG grant, and we were awarded, total project cost was awarded, was estimated to be almost $950,000. There's 80% cost share for the state, so 20% eligible costs for the city, and there is a portion of $104,000 that is outside of what is considered a bridge. It's considered the roadway that on either side of the bridge that we would have to repair as well. And we plan on utilizing STIP funds and overlay funds for this project, for the city's portion.
This overhead picture kind of looks alarming to me, like it looks like it's, I mean, is that just an optical illusion, or it just, you know?
It's just showing,
Do you see what I mean?
I think
I see
it's the
that.
angle the picture was taken at. It looks like the bridge is offset, but it's actually the arch in the bridge.
it is, that's correct, yep.
It's giving you that three-dimensional picture.
Has that bridge ever been repaired or anything?
I don't remember. When was the last time the bridge was repaired, do you know? I don't remember.
Or not?
I don't know that it had.
How old is that bridge?
I don't even know how old it is.
20 years?
Yeah.
There's maintenance done on it when they do, and that's why Rose suggested it.
Is it?
And just like Bros did the assessment, and they'll do assessments for all our bridges.
Under the railroad
So
bridge.
this one is
Back up to
time,
gravel.
it's time to do some maintenance. We did do patchwork, I guess, this last year on the asphalt at the bridge approach. So we're trying to maintain, but it's time for more maintenance with this grant.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action to approve resolution 2020-33, Foster Street Bridge for big grant, and authorize Mayor Everson as signatory. Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Dosher. Or Mr. McCardle. Okay. Oh, I caught him first. Sorry, whoever. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2020-24, Foster Street Bridge Big Grant with Bros Engineering.
Mr. Mayor and Council, and so this is the agreement with the engineering company, Bros, who helped with the applying for and receiving the grant for the city. And so these would be the costs for the design, and engineering and Public Works recommends approval.
Was that listed in the previous budget amount of $273?
It is included.
This is a subset, the $83,000 is a subset of the other total.
Right, this, yeah, so this would be the agreement with the engineering company for the costs.
Move approval of 20-24.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2020-29, a plat of Lot A subdivision approved and platted Lot S of Maui Farm, Second Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota.
Mayor and council members, you probably noticed in the planning commission packet that they did recommend approval of this plat. As you can see, it's part of that subdivision up on Sam Street at the end of Maui Drive. And this is, as you can see, most of the lots are getting platted and sold, so except for the extreme north ones there.
Move to approve 2029.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2020-30, a plat of lots 1, 2, and 3 of Copel Brothers First Edition of the City of Mitchell in lot number 1 of the northeast quarter of Section 27, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota.
Again, you probably noticed in the planning commission minutes that this plat was approved. Basically what is, right now, the ownership of that is all the big piece. It's approximately 10 acres, and what the owner wishes to do is to subdivide it into 3 pieces.
Okay.
Basically taking the park separate and maintaining, and then selling the frontage part, which is as separate unit. And then lot 3 is yet to be determined exactly how they'll do that, but basically encompassing where the mobile home community is in lot 2, and perhaps marketing lot 1 and 3 at a separate date, or separately, I should say. And as you can see, that little dotted line that cuts through there, that's the mutual access easement. So if you saw in the aerial, you see that the little driveway isn't necessarily parallel to that. So that's just so that there allows that access to get there, so. This was a recommend by approval, so.
Move approval.
Motion by Mrs. Charks, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2020-32, non-commercial long-term ramp parking at Mitchell Airport.
All right, I'll try to
Mr.
keep
Croce,
things...
you speaking to this one?
You can go ahead, Kyle. All right. I'll try to keep things brief. I mean, Kyle would drag this thing out forever. We've had at least one request out there to have basically a hobbyist pilot use the ramp area as a longer-term tie-down place to store their aircraft instead of in a hangar or through the FBO. If you recall, we did previously approve an aerial applicator agreement for commercial sprayers to do something similar, where they're using a certain area on the ramp to conduct their operations off of. So this would be a very similar thing. It would just be for the individual's aircraft to be tied down, allocate them a space. So many of the provisions are similar to what you see in the aerial applicators version. We did reduce the insurance requirements, and we did reduce the security deposit. Those are the major changes.
So in the winter, can they still be parked here?
This would only be, I believe it's April 1st to October 15th. And if you recall, we did pass some ramp regulations within the last year sometime that would limit leaving an aircraft for longer than 10 days. So that's why something like this would be necessary to allow longer-term parking. With that, I'd open it up to any questions.
Are you having problems with a crop duster out there, Justin, or what's going on?
No, not to my knowledge, not having any issues. It's just there was a private pilot out there, not a commercial sprayer or anything, that was interested in leaving their aircraft on the ramp, and we didn't have an agreement that would have worked for them, so that's where this comes into play.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion by Mr. Allen,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Second reading on emergency ordinance O 2020-06 in relation to coronavirus response. This is the lifting of the restrictions in a nutshell.
So if you recall 2 weeks ago, there were a couple of versions of this in front of you, and the council amended the ordinance to adopt or to basically choose this version going forward. And what this one does is repeals the original emergency ordinance, acknowledges that the mayor still has emergency powers under our code, and then it also strongly encourages people to follow the CDC hygiene and distancing practices.
We are still at 9 in Davidson County with 3 active, 1 hospitalized. Aurora, a couple of the counties around us have gone up 1 or 2, but nothing significant at this time, although Beetle County did go up 16, I believe. I don't know if that was due to massive testing of the meatpacking plant, the turkey plant, or if it had to do with the required testing of nursing homes.
That just started this
It did
week.
this week.
Yeah. And it'll go through next week, so.
Correct.
I know last meeting, I voted against this, but I'm pleased that we have seemed to not had an influx of cases, so I will be supporting this tonight, knowing that we do have that in place where, if need be, we can.
Let's hope we don't have to use it.
And just a comment, and I saw on media today that Sioux Falls is not going to open their outdoor public pools this year. They'll be closed for the entire summer.
Several places are not opening theirs for the entire summer.
Most of the decisions are fiscal related. Yep, that we're hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Vitamin D and chlorine are both good for killing the virus, so.
Sunshine and chlorine, is that what you're saying? All right.
I'll move approval of 2020-06.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-06. So, motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? A roll call vote, please.
Barrington. Allen.
Aye.
Chark.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance that changes the zoning district classification of real property legally described as Lot 18A, Tract L, Wild Oak Golf Club Edition, Southeast Quarter, Section 23, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, Davis County, South Dakota, from CN Conservation District to R4 High Density Residential.
Mayor and council members, you may recall that two planning commission meetings ago, they did recommend approval. Basically, what this is to make the two zoning designations consistent with the lot 18 and like lot 18A consistent, which would make them both R4. And you may recall you annexed 18A as well as platted it some time ago too. So this is the final step in that process to make it consistent.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-07. Motion by Mrs. Starks, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Roll call, please.
Chark.
Aye.
Sabers. Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance 2020-08, an ordinance that changes the zoning district classification of real property legally described as the north 600 feet of the west 250 feet of IT 3 in Lot 3, Northeast Quarter, Section 27, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, platted various City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, from highway business to industrial.
Again, Mayor, Council, this was presented to the Planning Commission 2 meetings ago, and from what I was told by is the applicant wishes to make it somewhat consistent with what Performance Pet is, right, as you probably saw in the aerial, and also, as you are well aware, the industrial district does provide larger opportunity or more opportunities for types of different uses that are not necessarily permitted or conditional in the highway business district. So as you can kind of see how everything falls, you can see TWC to the north and highway business district where the storage units are, but Performance Petman is industrial as well. So I'll try to answer any questions, or the property owner is here if you have questions then. Again, this was recommended by approval by the Planning Commission.
Move to approve on second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Mr. Balke, you want to speak to it? Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-08. Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion? Roll call.
Sabers. Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Sharp. Aye.
Motion
Smith.
carries. Presentation by HDR Engineering on wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so we've had HDR working on a wastewater treatment plant study and giving us an outline on where to go moving forward. If you recall, SPN did a wastewater collection system study and gave us an assessment of the whole system throughout town. So this is the information that we'll utilize moving forward. In the past, HDR has worked for the city and on a risk management plan for the water treatment plant. They started in 1999 and updated every 5 years. They did a wastewater energy audit in 2012 for us, and they're part of the design team on the Highway 37 project from Spruce to Haven. So we like working with HDR. They've got a lot of good knowledge to help the city out in this case.
All right, thanks, Kyle. My name is Gabe Lauber with HDR, one of the engineers working on the project for you guys, along with Delron Peters. We know you guys have had a long meeting, and we've been encouraged to keep it short, so we'll try to move through as soon as we can. So, all right, so your system, your facility, your treatment plant was built in 1977. Last year, it averaged about 2.4 MGD coming to the plant. You guys have done a great job. We commend the staff over the last 43 years of keeping the plant going and keeping your costs down. So since the plant was built, you've grown about 2,000 people roughly. Moving forward, we look at 20 years. In the design life of the plant, look at about another 1,500 people coming towards the plant. This is just showing that a little bit different way. So we started this process back in January. Moving forward, we just kind of wanted to show we appreciate your staff's help. There's been a lot of information we needed for this study. And then with our team, we've tried to bring in a lot of different experts in different fields to look at you guys' facility. And then also talking to DNR, Al and Kyle, because we know if we're looking at improvements out 20 years, we want to make sure that we're addressing things and how your permits will change going forward. Now we'll have Delron talk about the actual assessment.
I'm Delron Peters with HDR. I did a lot of the process work on the plant and worked on it on the energy audit in 2012 also. So we look at the process reliability of your equipment at the plant, of the treatment processes. We look at your population growth, and we look at regulatory requirements. The regulatory requirements are basically from the back of the plant, from the river, back to the plant to make sure that you're meeting the DNR and the EPA's requirements. So one of the things that's apparent in the facility is, like Gabe said, you've worked very hard to keep the facility going. Anybody who's driven a 43-year-old car maybe enjoys it for a while, but really likes to get back into his car that is fuel injection and is maintainable on a daily basis. And that's been their challenge. A lot of parts are not made anymore. They have things made in town at the machine shops to keep things going out at the plant. So there's a lot of things at the plant aging. So future regulations are the next thing we look at. The James River water quality impacts reach all the way down to the Gulf, and that's really one of the things that is common in the industry, is the total nitrogen and total phosphorus drivers, just from some of the nutrient issues in the hypoxia happening in the dead zone in the Gulf. So just kind of pointing out how that's playing out in the United States. If you look at the states around us, the dark blue are really ones that have taken action on and have to already meet those requirements. And then the lighter states, which include South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, the shaded ones that are lighter have taken some steps, and then South Dakota is kind of trying to hang back as far as we can with to save some finances for the bigger cities. So the other thing that's been impacting us is the new normal. So here we are. It seems like
the 100-year event happens every year or every week, right? You know, so it's been a challenge. You know, we've got facilities across the United States, but especially across the Midwest here that have seen, you know, events like this, and this is John's Equalization Basin, and it's about the same height as the river on this day. I mean, things are just trucking through there. So as we look through the facilities, the main projects consisted of, Project 1 is was right next to where that EQ basin is the headworks. Project 2 is the laboratory and office area. Project 3 is just the general site work and piping improvements, and we'll walk through the rest of these as we go. So here's your two plants. You basically have a north, south, and a north plant and a south plant. And you have to stand upside down because we put the north plant on the bottom. But the north plant is the one with the round basins, or the EQ basins, down here. And then your existing headworks, which was constructed in '77, is right here. So during these higher events, we try to equalize flows in basins like these. This is your south plant. It's pumped through several miles of force main up to the south plant, and it flows through this plant to get treatment. So your current peak is about 5 MGD. We project out a planned peak of 8.3 MGD, and then a equalized peak of 6.8, which kind of helps us, the 6.8 helps us manage the impact to the existing facilities by peeling it off into storage basins, basically. So what we did is we divided them up into manageable projects. There's the headworks and equalization, which is at the north plant, and some laboratory improvements. And then at the south plant, we have refurbishing the existing blower and electrical, which is original MCC lineups and original electrical equipment, and then all the way down through the new aerobic sludge digestion and dewatering. One of the things that is pretty, well, let me hit this slide first. So this would be basically the EQ basin that would, these are about half the size of the new one. So in order to equalize the flow to a reasonable value, we'd put in about 1 million gallons of EQ versus the 500,000 that's there, just under 500,000 that's there. No, I'll go back. And then this is the main line coming into the plant, and we're just looking at putting a new headworks facility, get it constructed kind of offline and flow redirected through a new headworks. This is the existing South Lagoon again, the picture of the South Lagoon, and these numbers represent the projects in this South Lagoon. One thing that's unique about this facility versus other facilities, one, you know, the sheer amount of storage, but two, it was never designed with any solids handling part of the process. It just didn't have that. It was handled by putting it in the storage lagoon. So with your new permit and your new permit requirements, that's really not going to be an option. You're going to have to contain those solids and treat those solids. So, you know, maybe back to the regulatory improvements is, so the biggest impact to the plant is that within your next permit cycle, you'll see your ammonia limits basically cut in half. And there's some negotiation with, you know, being able to do it over time with consent orders and that kind of thing, but there's a significant impact to your plant by the reduction in what you have to, what you're allowed to put in the river for ammonia. And that's across the nation. That was a rule implemented in 2013, but just now being adopted by the state. So the new headworks facility and all the work with equalization in that at the north plant is in the $13 million project. These are all project costs in the project cost range. And then the south plant improvements, which include refurbishing all the electrical, putting in a new aeration system, and putting in the new solids handling system is about $20 million. So it's a considerable cost. So I'm going to let Gabe finish out.
So I think sitting on you guys' side of the fence, knowing, okay, now you have a large project cost coming, well, how you guys take care of that, or what are you going to do for funding? And you guys obviously have done DNR funding projects before, really low interest rate right now. They just dropped in at 2.125. And just for a comparison's sake, a very high level look, for every $10 million you'd borrow at that term, it'd be about $675 a customer a month. EDA is a grant program out there. Very fortunate, we've been working with Yankton. They have to do improvements to their wastewater plant as well. Just last couple weeks got a letter saying they were awarded $6.4 million in grant dollars. We know you guys are looking at that on your storm sewer and already been talking to your staff about that, possibly for you guys on the wastewater plant. FEMA's out there maybe with some potential, and then we hear rumblings of a stimulus package, but we don't know the logistics of that. So just kind of a high level look at a couple of ways to go about it. And then what really kind of a rate comparison, talking to the staff, you guys like to kind of see where you fit. And really I'd kind of caveat this chart by just let you guys know that we put some asterisks next to some of those communities, and this is really a cyclical table, you know, where you guys sit today is in the bottom tier compared to some other class 1 cities. But just know those other communities are doing improvements, so their rates are going to go even higher than what's shown up there. But just to kind of give you guys a snapshot in time, this is on a 5,000 gallon user. That's what the state compares when you go in for funding. So just to kind of give you guys a snapshot of that. And that's all we have. We try to be brief. We appreciate you guys' time. We appreciate your staff's help with this, and I guess we'll open it up for questions if you guys have any. We know there's a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Okay. Thank you. Questions?
Quick question. What you would recommend that we need would cost what? I mean, if we said, yeah, let's do it all, what would that cost?
I think we talked about that one.
Yeah, well, the total cost for the higher priority items was $33 million.
33.
Yep.
Okay, I missed that.
Yep, that was the 13 at the north plant and 20 at the south plant.
And just for council's information, when they talked about the financing that we do through DENR that we've done on other projects, that still goes against your debt capacity. It just goes into the 10%.
Okay.
If we do a surcharge, and, you know, we just did a project, and so even our rates that were on there were a lot lower previous to last year.
Anything else?
Is there a date that they tell you that you have to have this done by, or is there a cutoff or a timeline of when this has to get all done?
Yep, so there are chunks of this project that you could bite off as regulatory requirements to meet the ammonia limit only. And that's going to have to happen be constructed and in use in the next 5 years. The equalization capacity to handle the flows is something that you could phase in. It really is hard to project with the flows that we've been getting over the last few years. So there are ways we could say, well, you know what, you've got 500,000 now, we could put in another 500,000 gallons of storage and not build 1 million yet and kind of watch it. You know, there are those kind of progressions that you can make. But generally speaking, the items we outlined are ones that you need to update your permit. There are, it's a planning level cost for sure. So earthen basins, for example, for the solids handling and dewatering is going to save a little bit money over concrete basins. So those are decisions that you make kind of during the, you know, preliminary design and planning. But kind of a lot of those are really next 5-year type plan.
So how long ago did the solids transition technology change that we're still not doing solids in the way that everybody else is?
So that's a really good question. It's kind of a history lesson for Mitchell. One of he was long gone before Gabe got there, but my original professors, Dr. Dornbush, I believe helped RCM when they originally designed this plant. And a big portion of it was for irrigation and planned irrigation. Well, at that time, the ammonia limits were much lower, so they figured they could handle the solids in that sheer volume of lagoons and the degradation that occurs. Well, what's happened is over the years, they were 43 years later, we haven't hauled any sludge out of lagoons, so it's kind of collected and collectively. So right now, from where your plant discharges to the lagoons to where it discharges to the effluent, there's actually some increase in ammonia.
Okay.
It picks it up along the way just because you're kind of having to digest some of the...
Because we've accumulated it in the...
Yep. So there's that challenge. But yeah, I think it's, the regulations have gotten much stronger.
They wouldn't let us just clean them out and start over?
So cleaning them out is an option, and it's actually partially included in there. The cleaning process, we would do some what we call sludge judging to determine what all the depths are in the lagoons. But based on what we think is there and the interaction with the staff, it's somewhere between $5 and $10 million worth of sludge accumulated in the lagoons too. So there's some benefit just to maintain that as irrigation and then clean what you have to treat the solids. So it's kind of an economy deal.
$10 million is a lot smaller than Lake Metro.
Yeah, we could put colored lights and stuff there.
Anything else? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're adjourned.